All right, we are live.
All right.
You go ahead and introduce the topic and all that.
Yeah, so the topic for today, and I think this will be a good one, since everyone's pretty much in the same situation, is how we are keeping ourselves occupied and in a good frame of mind during the lockdown and during the quarantine. It's been several months now, and I know everyone's handling it differently, but I think it might be helpful to some people to talk about how we're getting through it, how we're getting by, given that it could be a stressful time for others.
Right. For me, I would say heavy drinking is the biggest, you know, the
we're
biggest thing.
we're not coping. We're talking about.
Right.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh gosh, when did this start? This was, or at least when it really picked up, and when I felt things were starting to go a little bit differently. It was around March. Um, and I almost feel like for me, and I don't know if you've noticed it in your own personal life, but the hobbies that I started to get into, or not get into, but put more time towards, really changed up a bit. Um,
Um, I mean, I'd say that my kind of stuff stayed the same, but I think that that's partially because I've always I don't know, like I can do fine in groups and like in like an extroverted like I don't know, situation. But at the end of the day, I still just like to go home and spend like a bunch of hours either by myself or with like a very, very small number of friends. Like I don't like having a huge list of friends.
so what you're telling me is nothing's changed.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, that was basically the point is that like there's really not much different for me.
That's interesting. Not even in like maybe putting more time towards one hobby than the other, or dedicating a bit more time towards learning something different.
No, I kind of always I mean, like in my free time, I just like to learn. I don't know, like random stuff. Like I just, I get a bunch of like Audible books and that kind of thing.
Ah,
Um, but
okay, okay, we're
like,
getting somewhere. Hold on, don't stop there. What
but
kind of Audible books are we looking into?
um, dude, it's gonna sound weird. Like, I have a lot of just like really kind of random topics. Like psychology. Like I just different like I even have a book on like rocket fuels that it's kind of funny like you feel like you're somehow smart when you're listening to it even though most of it's going in one ear and out the other because the guy is using big words you know
Uh,
like RFNA is red fuming nitric acid, so I'm basically a rocket scientist now.
yeah, I'll definitely remember that one for the next Jeopardy quiz.
Right, but it's like given that I've got my own business and like I already kind of like set my own schedule and stuff. Like I didn't have a whole lot change. Like the stuff that changed was like the business itself and my ability to get certain, like resources and stuff. But like other than that, my life is like I already like quarantined.
Yeah, you were ready before. You were one of the early adapters to the
Dude,
quarantine mind frame.
I've been planning like I've been training for this my whole life.
Oh, it's interesting because for me, I'm kind of in this partially in the same boat where really I wasn't really big into going out to large gatherings or anything like that. I guess the difference for me is really just the time I'm spending towards different hobbies has definitely changed. Um, yeah, a lot less flipping has occurred. But aside from that, just the normal day to day, there hasn't been much going on. But I guess coping wise, because still, I mean, even though I guess the way I'd word it is, even though I really wasn't going out much to begin with, having the option to go out was kind of a comforting thing. And now I'm like, oh great, I'm gonna have to wear the mask. Oh great. At least in some cases, it hasn't happened to me yet, but I've actually seen people waiting to go into stores because they could have only a certain number of people inside the store at any given time, and I'm just like, geez, like I don't like that part, but um, yeah. Otherwise, not too much has changed, and really for me, learning has been probably my go-to to try and whenever I am starting to get a little bit out of my mind, um, try and learn something new. Definitely engraving has been a big sink in time. I've been getting some new books there. I want to learn some new things like inlay, some different types of cuts that I can do, just because I eventually do want to bring it around to the knife hobby, where I can start engraving on knives that actually will look decent as opposed to looking like some kid took out a crayon and scribbled on it.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Why did the hobbies change from flipping to engraving?
I think it's because if I continued to just do flipping, I think at the moment when it was starting to taper off around March, and it was tapering off a little bit beforehand, I was starting to get to a plateau in terms of tricks I was able to do. So the time investment to be able to do a harder combo would be even more practice and even more time. Or to do a YouTube video, I felt like I'd done most of the tutorials that I thought would be helpful to other people, and I really wasn't sure if I wanted to take it into the direction of doing kind of more informational videos or if I wanted to do some more clickbait type videos. I just wasn't sure at the time, and so engraving for me was a great way for me to say, okay, well, I can still bring it back to flipping or knives if I want to, but let me learn something where I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and it'll be very interesting, at least for me. And maybe I can bring it back to flipping, and maybe I could show off one of my own knives that I engrave. Where I mean, it would be so sick to me. This would be the sickest thing to me if I could take like probably the most easy ones to show off would be like a full titanium handle, and if I could inlay some like silver or some gold, oh man, that would just be and just have it be slow motion going by with some nice scroll work or something like that. That would just be sick to me.
Nice. Is this you asking me to make you something?
I mean, I'm dropping hints all the time.
I see. I see.
Just
Um,
send me over that scrap aluminum. I
that's
meant
redundant.
titanium.
You don't need to say
I meant
right,
titanium.
but
I didn't
you don't
say
need to say
no.
scrap aluminum. Like you
No,
can just say aluminum. Like it's same thing.
I say common street trash.
Right, yes. Although that could also refer to me.
Oh, but no, it is pretty crazy where that's just been such a big time sink. And it's probably because I think if I continued to live like everything was still the way that it was, I might have a little bit of a disconnect from reality type situation. That
Are
might be
you
part of it.
implying that you're not disconnected from reality? Because like if so, I think we need to have like a private talk here coming up.
Oh dear, oh dear. We get in our therapy session, a little couch and
Yeah. This is like you're up in your room and I'm calling you by your full name, saying come down here, and you're like, oh fuck, what did I do?
Well, I mean, I think it really is a way to kind of get by. I mean, aside from engraving, I have been playing video games more frequently, a fair bit more frequently. I
I
don't know
guess
if
I've
that's
done more video games. I didn't do as
okay.
many before just because I was busy with like handles and stuff.
Hmm.
Although I guess I mean I did start that part-time job, but that's not really connected to COVID. That's more just like I probably would have done that anyway. Um
I think the video games thing's probably huge for other people though, not just us, because you got a lot more people at home just because they can't go out. And I know I've talked to just even some family members who never played video games outside of maybe like a phone, like maybe Candy Crush on the phone. But I mean, it's like calling that a game, it's like the bare minimum of a game to me. I won't diss on it, but in terms of effort, in terms of what you got to put into it. I'd say it's the minimum type of game that someone could deal with. But
Like
those
I
type
would
of people,
say, Mr. Squiggles, is like he was never really into gaming, but now like I came in one day and he's sitting there with like four monitors set up using gamer words and stuff, and it's like what happened? Like what?
exactly. No, that's basically my family members where all of a sudden they have an Xbox One. I'm like, where did that come from? Where did you get that? And then next thing you know, it's not just the Xbox or the PlayStation, it's Xbox Live, and now they're online. And then they're in public matches with other people. And then the next thing you know, they're getting headsets. It's really peculiar to me because there's just so many people that were never gamers that suddenly became gamers in very, very rapid numbers.
You think
You,
children play video games more?
Oh, for sure.
I would think so, but I mean, like they would still theoretically need to be attending classes and stuff, right?
Oh, they'd still need to be attending classes, but I imagine it's very difficult to keep the attention span of a kid on the computer, especially a young kid on the computer for like 8 hours a day. It's one thing for them to be physically in school, but if they have all these distractions available to them, that's got to be crazy.
Especially as a psychologist, you would know. Or are you a psychologist, or do you just have a degree in it? I don't look. You're a psychologist, okay? As a psychologist, you would know, right, that somebody, if they're always playing video games on a computer, and then you sit them down on that computer and tell them to do schoolwork, they're naturally going to start doing video games, right?
Oh, that's just common sense, though. It's so bad because you know they're gonna know from an earlier age know how to navigate the internet way better, and they're gonna be able to find the stuff that they want to do. And I cannot imagine trying to teach a kid right now, especially maybe the older ones who they kind of still feel obligated to do what they got to do, but the younger ones are gonna be like, "Why am I doing this? This is boring. Can I just play like Clash of Clans or whatever the newfangled?" I know when I was working at the elementary school briefly, the hot new thing was it was like some game where you're a cube and you're going through an obstacle course and you're trying to dodge all these pits and these sharp objects. I can't remember what it's called. Someone will probably be able to pick up on it, but
Shoots and ladders.
no, it was like a left to right scrolling game, and you'd
I
be this.
was joking.
Oh,
Shoots and ladders is a fucking board game. You sped.
the only board game I really can get it. Actually, there's like 3 board games, and that's even something. Oh, I feel like a loser for saying this, but I'm gonna say it
You
anyways.
look like one too.
No, this is really gonna put a damper on things. Actually, or it might light things up pretty hot. I recently started playing Dungeons and Dragons, like the board game, but like the imagination game.
Are you observing social distancing in game?
Absolute. Oh well, I was gonna say in person, absolutely not. In game, absolutely not.
Nice, 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 nice.
So I mean, even board games aren't off the table. Monopoly's another fan favorite. Risk, actually, I prefer playing on the phone now, surprisingly enough. But board games have even picked up for me as well, which I mean, before it was maybe during family gatherings, but now I'm like, oh, let's just play some board games. Why not? And we literally have nothing else to do right now.
Yeah, playing Guess Who.
Nah, that one I can't get behind. Guess who? Because I'll start quoting some Pulp Fiction.
Does he look like a little bitch?
What?
Hmm?
What?
What?
Oh no, I thought you were gonna continue with the. The guy continues to say what, and he says, "Say what?" Okay. Well, but moving on. No,
You expect too much from me, dude.
I know you just know the. We gotta get you more ingrained in the meme culture, and then not only the meme
Oh
culture.
yeah. I'm definitely not involved in the meme culture. You fucking idiot. Hang
It,
yourself.
it is important. That's been
Hang
it.
yourself.
I don't know about you, but the meme culture has even gotten more. It's eaten up even more of my time. So, one group that I've now started to engage in semi-frequently is the Balisong memes group. And every now and then I'll pull out a heater and I'll just post something. Like the most recent one I put in there was the crocodile hunter meme I put up on my main page, with the like teaching my friend how to flip, and then the crocodile coming out of the water is the bite handle, and then there's me, the crocodile hunter,
Yeah, I
trying
saw
to.
it.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah.
horrific meme.
That was a
Absolute.
that was hot. That was a invest now type meme.
Was it really?
That I'm calling it like I see it.
Okay. Well, when when you lose all your money with those shit investments,
Oh
don't
no.
come crying to me.
Oh no, those junk bonds. Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But no, I think those have been kind of where my time has gone aside from flipping. I mean, video games has been a pretty big culprit. Just because it's so now that everyone's kind of doing it, I'm like, well, crap. Like, there's these people that never played before, and I'm like, great, now I can actually play with them, and it's kind of a fun. It's like the new way to hang out with people, even though you don't see that person.
Pornhub is now my homepage.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Sorry, no, I'm in X videos. It's
Oh
about
boy.
diversity.
Oh boy. You can the algorithms work differently, I suppose. They recommend based on you.
Oh yeah.
Oh geez. I really am interested though to kind of think about how other people are doing it, because I follow like some of the people on Instagram still and see what they're doing, and there's people who are still just banging out battle song videos on the regular, and I'm just kind of curious how why. I mean, maybe there doesn't need to be a why, but it seems like some people double down on certain things and other people branch out into different hobbies. Like I know even one other hobby that I've also picked up is just gardening, where I've
Oh, for the
recently.
love of God.
Oh yes, I was recently able to pull up the potatoes that I had planted back in May and make some damn good mashed potatoes out of them.
Wow.
Oh, it was
Real
delicious.
gourmet. That's it's a difficult thing to cook.
Oh, when you dump a half a stick of butter in there.
Dude, look, like I don't want to like brag, but how do I put this? I'm better at cooking Cheerios than you.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna challenge that.
You're
Just
like Kusky. You and Kusky are both the same, going on and on about your stupid fucking cooking.
I'm not prepared to die on the Cheerios hill.
Okay.
I'm just where I'm not that's not the hill.
Okay.
And I don't need to be drowning in a bowl of milk and just
There are
sag.
worse things to drown in a bowl of.
I can think of a few given the last topic that you brought up with X
Aluminum.
videos. Completely different direction.
I
Oh
see.
no.
I see.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But no, I mean, and to even go with the gardening, and you're probably gonna scoff at this even more. I was just trying to learn how to can recently as well.
I'm scoffing so hard that it's like I'm permanently stuck in this position now.
You're disfigured. You may be entitled to the financial compensation.
Oh yeah.
No, canning is surprisingly hard though. I was not good at it. The first thing that I tried was pickles, and I suffered from mushy pickles.
Oh, I always knew you suffered from mushy pickles.
It's a
Sounds like
genetic
something you
issue.
would struggle with. They make medications for that.
I certainly hope so. Because nobody likes mushy pickles. I mean, granted they did taste fine, but you kind of pull it out of the jar and you're like, I'd just rather not pretend that this is fun to eat. It's just.
Okay, so next topic. Um, but no, like I've got a friend who, um, he's somewhat into pickles and like pickling things. I don't know if he does it himself. He's gotten really into like cooking bread. So he's always posting these pictures of like bread that he
Oh,
cooked
no, the bread people, not the bread people.
Dude, he's fucking cooler than you are, okay? So
Oh well, okay, Mr. Bread Extraordinaire over there.
mhm.
I mean, it is. Granted, okay, it is hard. I'm well aware that cooking bread is actually difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't tried it, but I've seen like some of the more technical stuff, and I'm like, I just do not want to learn this
No, go on. You're already gonna get sued though. It's unfortunate.
from Mr. Breadman.
Yep.
Is he a sourdough or a rye guy?
I have no fucking clue. I just know he posts pictures of bread and he's like, "Oh, it didn't turn out that good this time." Like I'm looking at it and it looks fine to me. I'm like, what's wrong with it?"
Well,
But
I'm making fun of him because it seems like that's been the hot new trend where there's been a whole lot of people, and I think it's because there's like this bread and milk thing whenever there's some tragedy or some storm or whatever, where they're like, "Oh, if I can't get my bread from the store, I gotta be able to bake it myself."
okay,
And
you
I'm
know
like,
what you are? You're the kind of person that still has a fucking hand crank on the front of their car, complaining about all these newfangled devices that you just turn the key and it starts.
okay,
That's you.
that's
That's
that
you.
is.
That's
Do
you.
not do not try to date. Do not try and place a date on my age, sir. I'll have you.
Yeah, I can't count that high.
No, no, my car. Oh God, no. Even the Ford Taurus didn't have hand cranks. That's
You sure?
whew. No, I'm sure. I had automatic windows with that. They stopped working at one point, but I did have them.
Nice, nice.
No, but even that, even people are learning how to bake bread, and there's probably group pages of people trying to learn bread for the first time or how to bake bread for the first time.
Yeah, well, there are group pages of people being sped, so you've got your own place too.
Hey, I gotta find a safe haven for myself.
Yeah, where you're accepted.
That's the Battle Song groups. That is 100
Right.
the Battle 100% the Battle Song groups.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Trying to think of any other. I mean, I've even joined engraving groups as well. It's always funny to kind of see the different things that go on in those groups. But I feel like that's across anything. You see some interesting commentary every now and then.
Such as?
You get those people who clearly haven't read the rules or even tried to read the rules,
Oh, so
and
it's an
probably
internet forum, is what you're saying.
yes,
Okay.
indeed.
Thanks for
In
narrowing it down for me.
Well, I'm saying like in the Battle Song groups, one of the most common hilarious things is there will be someone who's trying to
See if it starts. It's probably running again. Um, yeah, OBS just decided to take like a massive shart.
That's fun.
Oh yeah.
I always enjoy that. So it looks like, at least from my end, it looks like it started back up.
Yeah. I think it's going now. But we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yes. There is one hobby that I like. I like to hook puppies up to car batteries and then see what happens.
See, now there's a thrill that you can get that does not require the harming of animals, and it's totally safe, totally free. You can actually throw those used car batteries into the ocean. So just find your nearest pier, find whatever car batteries you can, and just yeet them over the rail into the ocean. It's safe and it is 100% free.
Is it environmentally safe?
I said it's safe.
Okay, thank you. So
I
I
need I
right.
we
I
don't
yeah, no, I
just
apologize. Let's can we have like an ad break? Yeah. Um but yeah, no. I'm trying to think like my hobbies include watching YouTube videos on just ridiculously obscure things that I will never need to know. And then for whatever reason, I seem to remember anything interesting about just certain topics, like puppy anatomy.
Oh geez. I do the same thing to a degree. I know I've kind of been on a different kick of and I think it's because of the whole engraving stuff that I'm trying to like justify going down this path. But I'll listen to those stupid videos that are like, "Hey man, you gotta get yourself some gold. You gotta get yourself some silver. And I'm like, ooh, I could use it for engraving. Yeah, I totally can justify this purchase. It's just that's the type of rabbit hole I go down. And oh gosh, it's terrible, man. It's really bad.
It sounds
Uh,
horrific.
I'm in wackadoo land, but I'm walking through it completely,
Right.
completely
Right.
unarmed.
Unarmed or unharmed?
Unarmed.
Okay, I can fix the other one.
Sounds like you will contribute to the other one.
I would do no such thing.
Oh, jeez.
These are
No,
serious allegations. I'll have you know.
I think they're quite moderate in nature.
Okay.
No, but I really just do think that, and I'm curious for anyone in the stream listening, kind of what you've been doing to occupy the time, because I just feel like even though I feel like many people were introverts beforehand, it's just having no real option to go out somewhere kind of gets a little bit uh, difficult. Like even one thing that I kind of enjoyed doing was just going out to restaurants every now and then. And now I'm like, I do not want to deal with these stupid rules where I have to come in with the mask, and then oh boy, now when I get let outside, now I don't need the mask anymore. Wow, that really wow, logic. I just don't feel like having to deal with that, and so I've even just spent time trying dumb recipes that I find online that maybe will taste good, just because to me it's not worth the trouble. It's really just not worth the trouble of having to. And then people acting weird as well, because even though everyone's still going and they're all kind of in agreement with it, they still might give you that weird look if you're slightly too close. And I'm like, wait. Like, if you're worried, stay home. Like, I'm not the problem. You clearly are way more worried about this than I am.
Yeah, one thing actually, I think I downloaded it. Let me see if I've got it. I accidentally opened my thingy on screen. Now I'm gonna get people hacking me. It's pretty traumatizing.
Call me hacker, man.
Okay, so you're gonna need to look at the stream on this one.
Okay, I got it up.
But I this to me tells me everything I need to know. Okay, so you've got these people, right? So when that little 5-year-old, you know, the kid named Cannon or whatever, like the kid where
Oh, I've seen that.
yeah,
Yeah.
the dude like walked over the street and just yeeted the kid in the head.
Yeah.
You know, so people on the left are sharing memes like this, and they're saying, "Oh, this is what you use when stupid conservatives, you know, complain that, you know, blah blah blah." It's like, what's amusing is this exact meme can be used to completely discredit the George Floyd protests.
Oh gosh, yeah. This is a whole rabbit hole, but it's funny. Well, I don't really try to engage in it too much because people get really salty about it. But the use of memes on both sides is just it's reached comical levels in my opinion of just seeing how blind, like the logic. It's like, oh, it's fine when it's one way, and then when you reverse it, it's kind of like that whole thing where you have two people across from each other and there's a 6 painted on the ground, except on the opposite side it looks like a 9. That to me, that's like this whole meme back and forth thing going on. I don't know if that's kind of where you were taking that, but in my mind, when these people are using the memes, I'm like, that's what I envision. There's a 6 or a 9 painted on the ground, depending on which side you're looking at it from.
Well, the guy had that's funny says that he finds the riots useless. I think that they're much worse than useless. And I think it's amusing because it's absolutely helping Trump.
Well, this is what's actually probably scary. So we're talking about pretty innocent ways to spend your time, right? You're watching random YouTube videos, you're reading, learning about new things.
Hooking puppies up to Well, go
We're
on.
not
Sorry.
hooking. We're not. To be clear, we are not, and never have been hooking baby.
I mean, it's a joke. People will know it's a joke.
Let's clarify that nothing
No,
that ridiculous has been occurring.
no. Hell, I'm not going to clarify that. If you actually think I'm doing that, then that's fucking ridiculous.
Is it though?
I mean, yeah.
Anyways, we've been doing innocent things, gardening, ridiculous, engraving, whatever. But there's people who are so bored with themselves, who can't figure out what to do, that their way to occupy time is to go ahead and start rioting. Now, to what degree that someone wants to try and justify it, that whatever they can come to that conclusion, but to me, it's a little bit scary that you have people so bored who have just nothing to dedicate their time towards, like positive, to dedicate themselves towards positively, that they go full blown negative.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. But, I do think that it's. Look, first off, you'll often find in the media that people will be like, a militant group from, Black Lives Matter. It's like, no, Black Lives Matter is a militant group. And it's also a joke. And the reason it's a joke is because, well, they think it's a complete, it's just a cover story. It's like an excuse. Because if you actually wanted to help people of color, you would not be going around making demands that will never be met and could never be met. I mean, going around through neighborhoods demanding that people give up their homes is clearly ridiculous, right? And so it's like, if all you want to do is go around and riot, then you do exactly that. You make claims or demands that will never be met, and that way you will basically, you'll be allowed to riot endlessly, which is funny because it backfired when people demanded that they abolish the police, because that was supposed to be something ridiculous that would never happen, and then the fucking politicians did it.
Well, that's my whole point. You have, and I think this is probably the good point of it. You have negative things going on when people are too bored that just do not know what to do during the quarantine.
I don't know that I'd blame that on the quarantine. I think that they're just bad people.
Oh well, yeah, there's bad people, but
they have time because of the quarantine.
Yeah, but then they have the time to act out on those bad things instead of doing productive things.
Assuming that they had jobs, which a lot of lefty people that are just out of college. And if you look at the demographics of the people that are part of allegedly Black Lives Matter, it's all white people. That's a very interesting thing too. I've seen there's a lot of, it's this weird phenomenon, and I really don't like it. You have this super, super weird phenomenon of a lot of young, and I don't mean like 40-year-old, I mean like 20-something-year-old white people more or less telling 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old black people how they should respond to certain events. It's very bizarre. I'm like, are you really that messed up from, and I know you're saying it's not the quarantine, but I'm going to go down that route. I'm like, are you really that messed up from the quarantine that you, young white guy, young white female, are going to tell this poor black person who's just trying to, whatever opinions they have, they're just trying to have their opinions, but you're going to say, no, let me filter that for you. This is how you should feel. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I understand the desire to sort of extend an olive branch kind of thing and just sort of put the blame on the quarantine in quotes or whatever. But I'm not one of those people. There are cases where I will give someone the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not one of these never attribute to malice that which can also be explained by stupidity, because that's just a ridiculous thing to say. Because then you just have a bunch of people going around playing stupid and then manipulating you. I don't know. In my opinion, like if I think somebody is acting out of, I don't know, some bad motivations, then I will attribute it to that. But that's just me. I'm, a bad person like that, I suppose.
Well, but here's the thing, though, right? So you could have people that just simply are spending so much time because I mean, I know on Facebook at least. I'm going to use Facebook as an example. There's some really, I think the algorithm promotes some very controversial things on purpose. And so you get these people who are bored, they're home all day, maybe they've been furloughed, whatever, and they're looking, scrolling, and they start to get this narrative through the algorithm that, oh boy, I should really support this cause, I should really support this. This is something I really want to go out and do. When normally they never do it, but given the circumstances, given that they have nothing to do, given that they're looking for something to kind of uh, dedicate their time towards, all of a sudden they fall into this kind of like propaganda trap, and now they're doing something that they normally would not be doing. That's kind of more so my logic, as opposed to saying like, oh, let's just absolve them of all their, like, they still made the decision to get sucked into the propaganda, but ultimately maybe they weren't prepared for it, maybe they were a little bit weak-minded about it, and now they're in the position that they're in. Still, it doesn't absolve them of all the bad going on, to clarify, but I can understand how someone could get sucked into it.
Yeah, I'm not saying I can't, like, I don't understand. Like, I think I do understand how people end up getting into these situations, but I don't. Look, there are a smaller number of really awful people that are taking advantage of a bunch of well meaning people by manipulating them.
Oh, for
And
sure. Oh, absolutely.
so I don't necessarily think that all of these people are bad. In fact, I think, I don't know, like I think a lot of these people are good and they genuinely want the best for people.
Well,
But
sorry, keep going.
like I think that there is a point where you are so naive that you need to be held responsible. Like you can't just go through your entire life being naive as hell and essentially leaving a trail of just destruction behind you, destruction, pain, and suffering behind you. You just like that, dude. I get it if you're like 13 and you're naive. That's pretty fucking standard, right? If you're 50 and you're also like you're still being taken advantage of in this way, like certainly some of that blame falls on you.
I would agree. I would say, but and I think this is why I think I kind of was interested in this topic tonight in the first place is people need to have a strong mind during times like this where there's a lot of controversy going around, there's a lot of emotions going around. People need to have a strong mind. And how do you do that? Well, you actually put your time and you put your efforts into productive things, productive hobbies, like the ones that we've kind of mentioned so far, so that when these things come up, you're not just go time attached to it. I think the reason why people are so easily drawn into it is because they are weak minded. And it's not an attack on them to be like, oh, you're a dumb person, but it's like, you don't put your time towards building anything up that the moment that someone comes across with something that kind of seems like a strong idea, even if it's total BS, but it seems like a strong idea, all of a sudden you want to be a part of that because you haven't built anything up yourself. You haven't been dedicating yourself to learning. You haven't been dedicating yourself to, say, learning a useful skill like machining, or even my example, the engraving. You haven't even dedicated yourself to just learning a game really well and becoming proficient in a game. You've done none of that. And so you have, in my mind, you're pretty weak-willed. Probably the first time, and you see all the time with trending things on Twitter or trending things on Facebook. People just hop on the next trending item because they have yet to dedicate themselves really to anything productive. I mean, One thing that I've left out, and I might have mentioned it earlier when we spoke earlier off stream, but even exercise. I mean, if someone was really to dedicate themselves to just getting in very, very good physical shape, that's something that's productive. It's going to keep your mind straight. And when you come across these super trigger, like I'm going to use the word triggering because that's probably the most hot buzz word that I can use. But when you come across these things, you're gonna be like, oh, well, let me maybe think about this a bit more. Instead of, ooh, let me get sucked into it. And oh, now I'm outside in the street protesting for something I'm not really too sure about.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of getting into martial arts. I just have to find a place around here that I think is good.
It'd probably be a good idea, honestly. I've been trying to do some minimal amounts of exercise, but it'd probably be a good idea.
Yeah, but you weigh like 500 pounds.
Boy, I'm a smack. Don't let him know.
He weighs 180.
Not even. Sadly, not even.
160.
Maybe if I have a couple burgers that day and I don't I don't relieve myself.
I'm like
later.
160.
Which, I mean, hey, that's fine. But just doing to get, I guess, into a routine of doing an exercise even is enough for me just to get into some routine. Just because it's one more thing to kind of build up, keep your mind in a good place, as opposed to just being so bored with yourself and having nothing to do that you're just scrolling through the internet looking to be offended by something. I honestly feel like that's a large part of the problem, where so much of like who's doing well versus quarantine versus who's not doing well, those people who are doing well, probably exercising, probably picking up hobbies, or they're doubling down on hobbies that they already have, whereas the other people have either had no hobbies to begin with, abandoned hobbies, or actually it's probably the two scenarios. They probably didn't have any hobbies, or they abandoned the hobbies they have, and now they're just looking for anything to do, and they're getting offended by the most minute situations. Or even if they aren't minute situations, they're getting offended by things that are almost entirely out of their control. It's almost like, and this is the craziest part, and I've tried to word this in the past, not on streams, but just in my own talking to others. I've tried to word this in the best way possible, but it's almost like you have a group of people that would rather try to change things that are out of their control, that they know are out of their control, but they delude themselves into thinking that they can change it. They are more likely to do that instead of change immediate things in their own personal lives that would make a huge impact on their quality of life.
Well, I kind of have a problem with people demanding like quarantines and stuff, and I have a lot of problems with it. I mean, it completely disregards like small businesses. First off, second, suicides have like skyrocketed, including among children and teens and young adults, or whatever the hell you want to call them, right? It's like, this is not how people are meant to live, right?
Oh no,
And
it's terrible,
it's just like, it's people, dude, look, the friends that I have that are essentially demanding lockdowns and stuff, every single one of them is able to do their job from home. Every single one of them. I don't have a single friend who needs to go into work who is asking for quarantine, right? So you have a bunch of these people who've spent too much time in education, right? And or too much money, and they're convinced that it makes them a genius. And yes, to the inevitable PhD that's listening to me.
No. I got words for those PhDs. I got words for them, but you continue.
I have friends, multiple friends with PhDs, some of them with quite a few degrees, and it's like, my friends don't have this kind of, at least from what I've seen, they don't have this attitude of, well, I mean, I have a PhD, so look, the people listening, that have a PhD that are offended by that, you're the one I'm talking about. Because the people who have PhDs and are like, oh, I know exactly who he's talking about, they're not offended because they know exactly who I'm talking about, right? So it's like you have these people that think that because they're a professor or they have some prestigious job or something, that they are somehow the arbiter of truth, right? And they don't care how it impacts other people.
Well, here's one of the best ways to keep your mind straight during quarantine. Having a job does a lot for that. So obviously, well, actually, not obviously. For in my own experience, I have continued to have a job throughout this entire quarantine. I also work from home. So I kind of fall into that category of someone who would likely be pushing for quarantine extension. I am not at all. I think the quarantine should have ended probably a month or two after it started,
Yeah,
if it should
15
have
days to
even
slow the spread, right?
if it should have even began at all. The reason why I say that is because realistically, in realistic terms, if you actually look at the numbers, and you can go ahead looking at it, you can go look on the CDC, you can look at the NIH. The realistic numbers in terms of death toll is around 2%. Now, this sounds like a lot, right? Well, if you look at the population being affected, a lot of it is obesity, a lot of it is comorbid issues like lung cancer. And obviously, I don't want any of those people to die, but if you look at the population that's actually being affected, you start to paint a picture of healthy people or people who are working towards being healthy really aren't going to be too heavily affected by this, especially young people. And so you have to ask the question of why are we forcing all these people who are otherwise fully capable of getting the virus and surviving with minimal issues? Why are we telling those people that they can't work? Why are we telling them that they can't run their business? Why are we telling them that they can't have customers? It's the most bizarre thing to me that I've ever seen. And I think that is a huge factor in why so many people aren't doing well during the quarantine, because for so many people, their job was their way of keeping their mind in a good place. It was their thing that they could look forward to, their thing that they could go to and enjoy. And you have these bizarre rules being put into place that really hamper them from being able to go ahead and live their life in a productive way that gives them meaning. You're just stripping these people from meaning, all to save. I mean, look, you have. I don't know what the numbers are on it, and I'd have to look it up. But I think one of the highest killers in this country is heart disease related illnesses, or maybe it is just heart disease. You know what a huge comorbid issue is with heart disease? Obesity. Well, you know what the obesity numbers in America look like? I think if I'm not mistaken, and someone can double check this, the last time I looked, the number of obese Americans, and I'm talking not just chubby, not just a little tubby, I'm talking about obese, was 40 million plus Americans. So why was that just not a national issue? You got 40 million Americans with obesity issues. You have heart disease being one of the number one killers, but all of a sudden there's a virus that comes along, and that's the threat that we're worried about now.
I
That
mean,
threat.
dude, here's the thing. It's about Trump. It always comes down to Trump. Like they wanted to make a big deal about it because they don't like Trump. Like that's and it you can see because the people who are posting about it can't help but include something about Trump or people who like Trump in every fucking post that they make. Right? It's like it's just about trying to make Trump look bad, and that's why I just don't care. Like it's
Well, I mean, I care because it affects, and I'm sure you do care. I know you're saying you don't care, but it affects so many people, even in my personal life, and I'm sure it affects people in your personal life as well. These quarantine measures are just putting.
I'm saying I don't care about the outrage of these people
Oh
because
yeah,
I
yeah, that
don't.
that yeah.
It's
I'm
not
in
that I don't
agreement.
care about people getting like like getting sick and dying. It's that these people are not outraged for the right reasons. They're doing it because they don't like Trump, not because they actually give a shit about people. They're just claiming that it's because they give a shit about people because they want to feel like they're morally superior to you.
And that ties back, and I love it. I love it because it hits on our topic so well. These people are so easily susceptible to propaganda that is not true. And they just get in line with it, and then it ends up decreasing the quality of life for others. Something that they've been led to believe is going to be a positive thing for other people. They've been led to believe this because they've had a weak mind, because they haven't been working on themselves, they haven't been increasing their skill set, they haven't been doing anything along those lines. They are very easily susceptible to propaganda, and then boom, you end up in a situation where they're supporting measures that I would be surprised if there was a really big benefit for. These measures, I'd really be surprised if we've saved. I mean, maybe we have. Look, I can't say for certainty, but I'd be surprised if we've really saved that many more lives. Versus,
look, I know people who, and I think a big part of this is that people want to feel like the experts, and so they hear something from the media with them saying how dumb Trump is and how smart they are, and then putting some kind of random shit in from some professor, usually, and people will sit there and repeat it and then just talk about how stupid the people who hold an opposing view are. And I'm so sick of the narrative that it's like, oh, well, you have Fox News, so you can't say that media is, left, like, biased too far to the left. It's like, dude, like, that to me just seems like a blatantly disingenuous argument. Because
oh, sorry.
Like, it seems to me to be a blatantly disingenuous argument, because just because Fox News has the most viewers doesn't mean that combining the viewers or the ratings of the other ones, and there would be some overlap, is not like much higher. And there are plenty of people who watch just left-wing news. You don't find that as much on the right, which is something that you even find that Jack Dorsey published, where on Twitter, people on the right follow people on the left and the right. People on the left only follow people on the left. And it's why they think Trump is going to lose so badly.
I got a bit of a takeaway from that, and that is, for me, I just wish that people would just try it for a couple days. Keep yourself signed out of social media apps like Facebook, sign out of Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, sign out of all of it. Turn off the TV unless you're going to watch something harmless like the Discovery Channel or whatever. Keep that turned off and really just focus on improving yourself, learning something new, or anything along those lines. Because I really feel like if people did that, they'd kind of realize that these things that they're hearing on the news, these things that they're being pushed through the algorithm, because let's be clear, the algorithm prioritizes very specific pieces of information that those apps want you to see. Facebook pushes certain things that they want you to see. Twitter does it. Google, who owns YouTube, does it. They all push a certain narrative that they want you to see. Just turn it off. Focus on building yourself up. And I think if enough people did that, they'd kind of step back from these emotionally triggering things and realize, why am I so invested in this thing just because I'm being told to be invested in it? Why am I going to jump at someone else's throat over something that neither of us can really control in our own personal lives?
Here's the thing, right? Like, I forgot what I was going to say. Jeez, I'm an idiot. I genuinely I genuinely just completely forgot what I was going to say. I think that you have a lot of people who don't have time to check stuff, like to actually verify it, right? Like
today,
I
mean, I mean, today's setting, I think they might have time to. Like a lot,
Not
I'll
some
really,
people. Not some
I mean,
people.
I
They're
mean,
too busy, dude.
a lot of people. I mean, some people, yes, some people, yes. Sorry, I'm being a pain for the sake of being a pain to clarify that there's a lot of people
Right,
who have
but
a
you're
lot
what
of
you're
time.
clarifying, you're basically implying that what I'm saying is invalid because some people have time. And I didn't
No,
say that everybody has time or doesn't have time.
I,
I said that there are a lot of people who don't have time.
I'm not saying that your point is valid and invalid. I just wanted to stress that there are unfortunately some people that don't have the time, but there are a lot of people who do have the time who choose not to.
Right, I agree. And I think that those people are willfully just being like they've picked the narrative that they want and they're not interested in actually determining if that narrative is correct. But what I
Which
think
is
people should
yeah.
do is actually listen to a press briefing from Trump, just watch the raw thing and then look at the coverage of it. And you immediately start seeing how just completely disingenuously they read stuff. Like they'll pick things from two different, like Trump had said something to the effect of if George Floyd were looking down on us right now, I think he'd be proud. And the entire context of that was a discussion about the protests and all that stuff. But the media says, well, Trump said that George Floyd would be proud of the economy. And it's like, there is no way that you read what Trump said and determine that it was about the economy. That is willfully lying to people.
Man, you know how you come to that conclusion. You know how you come to it. You don't have anything going for yourself. You just listen to something and you take it at face value. People who have things going on in their lives, even if the only thing you have going on in your life is just exercising a little bit per day, probably are more skeptical of propaganda and will analyze it further than people who just mindlessly consume social media all day.
And to be fair, you have those people on both sides. Like this is not just a left wing issue.
I think that's probably good to clarify. Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy though. I mean, you just have you have like this subset of people, and I think it's across all age groups. And as you said, both sides of the political spectrum. You have these people on both sides of all ages who mindlessly consume media all day. Whether that be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, whatever. They just consume. And it's almost like whatever they consume the most of is the position they take. And that's why I'm like so pushy on do something outside of consuming media all day. I promise to anyone listening, your mind will probably be thankful for it later. Just do something else. It could be anything else, really. Just disconnect from it for a bit. I know what you're saying, like, listen to something and then juxtapose it against like what is said afterwards, like with the speech. But you could do that, but also just shut off as well. You could do that, maybe do that for a little while and then shut off, do something to self-improve to get your mind off of what's going on, because I promise that your perception of things going on in the world will change and you will become more skeptical and you'll look at things more closely, because there's a certain narrative being pushed and it is on all different sides. There's a different perspective being pushed. So by getting yourself in the right frame of mind, you're able to tackle that a lot better than if you're just a consumer. You just consume all day.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem though, and I don't know if this would actually be fixed by that, but like I think a lot of people just because the journalists don't want to lose power, they basically are trying to say like, oh, be careful, the conservatives will try to get you to put your head in the sand and stop listening to the news. If you just don't list, just consider for a moment that they might not be acting in good faith. Just look at the evidence, look at what happens, right? You can look at that fucking article from Portland talking about Trump and his stormtroopers and unidentified police officers. The picture on their fucking article shows that they have police patches, badge numbers, and like a patch for their unit. They're obviously police. They are obviously police, right? Not only that, they're police under Oregon law as well, right? Which is why the judge shat on them so hard when Oregon tried to sue on a citizen's behalf. The judge was like, you lack standing. And then even if you assume that everything you
your sheep's moving across
okay,
the
now
screen.
It's back up. Okay.
Oh, I was about to say, did we lose?
Yeah, no, I can see when it's not uploading. Like I have all the stats on OBS.
Okay, well, at least we're good now.
I don't know what the hell the problem is today. I had problems with Discord and trying to talk to you, and now I'm having it with streaming.
YouTube doesn't want the spicy conversation.
Yeah, dude, the real problem is the geese.
But no, I know your thing is more towards the like logically look at what's going on, but some people are just so ingrained in it, and that's why I'm like, just shut it off and do something. Even if it's what you talked about your friend doing, just bake some bread. Learn how to bake some bread. I don't care what you do. Shut off the TV, shut off your apps, go learn to bake some bread.
To be fair, that guy, and maybe this is to your point, he's like one of the only people on the left that I'm able to actually have a discussion with, and he's honest, right? Like, we disagree on stuff, but we're both trying to approach it in an intellectually honest way. And so it's really interesting because you see how other people see an issue, and instead of like, he doesn't make these ridiculous claims that you get from people on the far left, and those people on the far left are the ones that are amplified by media. And so people on the right, all they see is ridiculous arguments that are just facially absurd, right? Oh, yeah. But there's actually some truth if like the source of the argument is generally like there's some aspect of it that's true. It's just not the like absolutely ridiculous like way that they're representing it, right? So the guy he's very busy, but he still spends a lot of time following like politics, you know, and he's able to have a discussion, and he bakes bread, right? So maybe there's a connection.
Hey, but I think there's a connection. I think because you know what a hobby represents, right? No. Even if it is baked. No, okay, all right. Well,
heavy drinking, I would say again.
Rhetorical question. So, but to those who can't connect the dots, which I'm sure everyone has by this point, but I'm going to reiterate it anyways because it's more fun to do it that way. Even something as simple as baking bread represents someone having the capacity to work through a problem because something could go wrong. You could mess up cooking bread or baking bread rather. You could mess that up, and so being able to finish that project from start to finish signifies that you are competent enough to work through a problem, which means when it comes to engaging in these bigger topics, you can probably logically work through them as well. It sounds stupid. Like, oh, it's just a hobby. What does baking bread have to do with critical thinking? You're working through a problem either way.
Well, to be fair, it might not be the bread with this guy because he is an attorney and he's got a number of years of experience, and you know, so he knows how to reason through arguments and stuff. But actually, the interesting thing is like what's amusing is you'll have people in the news that will say something like, "Oh, attorney such and such, you know, definitively blah blah blah," like just acting as if what they say disproves something. Like, absolutely, right? And the reality is, literally, like, lawyers are taught to win the argument even when they're wrong, and they know they're wrong. That's the whole point of, like, a defense attorney, right? And so it's nice when you encounter somebody who, despite being able to argue something and like try to win the argument, they're actually approaching it honestly, right? It's just really refreshing.
No, I agree with that, and I know you're saying, and my point is strip away the credentials, because in most cases, I really don't care in everyday to day life. Your credentials, my credentials aren't going to matter. Your credentials probably aren't going to matter in everyday life. So I kind of just want to. I prefer to strip that away. Just
Well,
because
no, but what I'm saying is, like, it might not be the baking of the bread that leads to him being able to make reasoned arguments.
Well, I mean, how many people do you know that can bake bread successfully?
Well, I
How
don't know.
many?
Do you think that I'm able to make decent arguments?
Are you able to bake bread?
Nope.
What? Okay, okay. But this is where I'd say, okay, but what can you do? And I think the next thing is you can turn a piece of titanium into a finished product.
A finished product? Bitch, it's a masterpiece.
I mean, let's not get carried away.
I'm just fucking with you.
But I mean, how many people that you can keep going down that line of just taking simple tasks? There are people who cannot. There are people who struggle with microwaving TV dinners. I really need to stress that. I really need to stress that.
Dude, there are people who drive Priuses.
There are people who think smart cars are an acceptable form of car.
Oh my god, can you, dude, those people, you know that, like,
I need to stress this.
Keep in mind, this is a psychologist, guys.
I need to stress this. Well, okay, I'm not. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm not a psychologist. But you see the logic, like, okay, strip away the credentials. There's got to be something else going on in that person's life besides being an expert in whatever.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence that, like, he's able to also make bread kind of thing. Like, you generally find, like, people who are able to figure out how to do stuff, like, it's not limited to one domain. Like, generally they can do it across multiple domains, which is part of what your point is.
The critical thinking piece, exactly.
Right.
So it's such interesting topics.
Are they?
I'm pretty convinced they are.
I mean, it's bread, dude.
I mean, do you add the yeast? When do you add the yeast? How long do you bake the bread? Do you need to flash it?
Did you hear about that? Okay, I'm trying to decide if I should say this.
Is there an easier way to put it? Perhaps more PC friendly.
It's pretty fucked up. Did you hear about the feminist who had, like, a yeast infection and used it to make bread?
I wasn't sure if that was a real article or if that was just a troll.
No, it's real.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, I'm hungry. Jesus. Some people are just so fucked up, man.
I'm telling you, but this is what I'm just harping on about. Like, there's fucked up people, but you can contribute to not being a fucked up person by just getting a hobby. Just get a hobby, dedicate yourself to that hobby. If it goes wrong, if it doesn't go well, switch, find something else to do. Just decrease the amount of fucked up people in the world.
Right. Well, there are multiple ways to do that. Oh, I didn't mean it that way.
I mean, what way did you mean it?
Oh, the stream is about to crash.
Oh, convenient. Convenient, very convenient. Oh, no, we're losing the stream.
Oh, no. Okay, I don't think they can hear us.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we can just cut it.
Right, okay, cool. Yeah, but no, like, yeah. I don't know, like, on some level, I kind of feel like, I don't know, man. It's kind of a fucked up thing to say, but like at a certain point, if these people are not going to stop going around and harassing innocent people, killing children, climbing on people's cars, shooting random people, shooting a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old in Seattle, and then Jenny Durkin calling it a summer of love. Like at a certain point, like I feel like a civil war is the only way that it's going to get resolved, because it's not being resolved through the current methods that are available.
So full disclosure, Hobbies will not prevent that.
Yeah, I feel like we need to have one of those like super fast talking legal speak things at the end.
Full disclosure, I am concerned for the outcomes that we will see transpire between the months of September to March 2021. That will be an interesting time, regardless of if anyone picks up a hobby or not. I'm trying to make light of the situation because it gets pretty dark pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that the problem is you have a bunch of people who are like, oh, well, I've got kids and I've got a family. So, what am I supposed to do? It's like, if you literally aren't willing to speak out, first off, what fucking world are you leaving behind for your kids that you allegedly care so much about? Right? And second, like, if you don't do anything and you allow these people to continue to go, like, I'm telling you, what's going to happen is they're going to do this to the wrong person or the wrong group of people. There's going to be a massive backlash. And I don't think that once the backlash starts, it's going to stop. I think it's going to go until these people are gone. Like, I think it's going to be a complete bloodbath and people just are like living in fantasy land.
But okay, we can bring this back. We're reeling it in. We're reeling this topic back in. The reason why people are in fantasy land is because their mind's not right, and it kind of ties into your point though. It's a little bit too late for some people. Kind of the events that have been set into motion they're events that will not be able to be stopped. Now, whether that be a bloodbath, as you say, which I really don't want to see that. I don't want to see random people just get sent into a meat grinder. I really would prefer that not to be the case. But whether that be the case or not,
yeah, but I would prefer that over literally living in some hellhole with a bunch of social justice ideologues, literally just torturing. Like, dude, these people are going around and they're kicking people on the ground, shining quote unquote self-defense flashlights in their eyes, like strobing lights, shining lasers in people's eyes. Like, I'd prefer to have a civil war than to have those people in power. And so it's like, yeah, I don't know, dude. There's gonna come a day when it's, yeah, dude. It's not gonna be pretty.
Well, maybe it will be a wake-up call. So, how do I word this well? Maybe these things need to occur. Not because they can't be prevented, but maybe they need to serve as a reminder to some of these people who get lost in the propaganda sauce that you shouldn't just put all your efforts towards a cause just because you're emotionally engaged by it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't think that there's going to be a wake-up call until it's a mass level thing that the media can't deny. Because as it is right now, the media just doesn't report on stuff that makes the left look bad. Like, they do everything they can to not cover it. And it's like, the thing is, you'll even see, like, in New Mexico, when there was that huge crowd trying to tear down that statue, you had a big mob of people chasing a guy, and some guy screamed, "He's gonna fucking kill you." The guy pulled out a gun and shot the guy, I think 4 or 6 times. And from what I recall, the guy got paralyzed. But he's running towards this guy with a fucking skateboard, which, by the way, is a deadly weapon in fucking any state. Okay?
Oh, people don't understand. Okay, yeah, I need to pause on this for a moment here. Let's pause on this. People do not understand, and it's lost on people that you can kill someone if you hit them wrong and they land head first down onto some concrete.
You can push someone. They trip and fall, and you now get manslaughter charges.
They can die. I really need to stress that. I really need to stress that even hands can end up killing someone. A punch, that's more logical than a push. Like, you wouldn't think, like, oh, a push could kill someone. No, a push could kill someone. It's ridiculous to think about when you kind of say it out loud, but there are examples of it actually occurring. A skateboard, a leverage, you have leverage on that thing.
And the speed.
Yeah.
Well, what a lot of people don't understand as well is, like, if you shove someone and then they fall and die, you can be convicted of murder. It doesn't matter, like, if you were like, oh, well, I just wanted to shove the guy. What matters is, did you intend to do the action that led to the guy dying? You intended to push the guy. Like, you did, unless you're going to argue that you tripped and fell yourself, which I think you'd have a tough time with. But who knows? I don't know. I'm not a fucking lawyer. But you can literally get convicted of murder for shoving someone.
Yeah. But people are living in this fantasy land where they see it and they're like, oh, wow, really? That's not bad. No, a skateboard can mess someone up. Like, bad. Really bad.
Yeah, you saw how fucking quick those guys turned around and ran away as soon as that guy pulled out a gun. That's why guns exist in this country.
Oh, no, I support. No, I totally
understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, these people make all these arguments about, oh, we'll call the police. First off, cops aren't doing anything, and the prosecutors are not prosecuting, okay? But they're not even, prosecutors are not people. I don't know if anybody knows that, but prosecutors are not actually people. Like, these people are so disingenuous, and they think it's a game. That's the thing. They think that it's a game, and they think that they can hurt other people and that they won't face any real consequences, right? But then as soon as the guy pulls out a gun, the fucking game gets real very fucking quickly. And they all run away because they're pussies. They're only fucking tough in crowds, dude. Well,
I agree.
Fucking skinny white kids.
And to clarify, to anyone listening, I do think that you should exercise your right to own and purchase a firearm. I would like to support that notion. I think if you have the ability to do so when you're of age, or if you are of age currently, go ahead and go do so. I think everyone should be utilizing that right.
Yeah, especially now, dude. To me, it's fucking insane that there are people that are living, especially these people that allegedly have families, right? And you have, dude, if you live in a city and you have a family that lives with you,
I'd move out of the city,
if you
man.
don't care about yourself, that's fine. But if you're living with a family and you're just going to choose to listen to the media telling you it's all peaceful, you're not going to get sympathy from me when they show up, shoot up your fucking house, and people die. When they pull you out, they drag you out and beat you in the street. When they burn your house down.
I'll tell you what, man. If I was living in the city, and this isn't financial advice, but boy, if I was living in a city, I would not want to be living in a city right now if I had the financial means to not have to be there.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Terrible. I'm watching what's going on, and I'm really worried for people that are there who maybe don't know any better. I really am worried for those people. Even if they are falling for the propaganda. I mean, I still don't want to see bad things happen just because.
I don't want to see innocent people getting hurt, but at a certain point, my sympathy ends. Like, if I don't know, man. Like, it's so easy now. It requires so little effort at this point to just find evidence showing that clearly it's still not peaceful in Portland.
But But this is the topic of our conversation tonight. Weak mind. If you don't have things that
Yeah,
those things we've talked about,
I
man.
think people are willfully ignorant.
Maybe, but I think you can. Well, I think it's one of those things where you can, if you lead the horse to water and you splash the water in the horse's face, and the horse does not choose to drink that water, then yeah, there's not much else you can do. But I think it's better to make that kind of sentiment easily digestible, easily available, and those who choose not to take it in, well, then they can deal with the consequences of that accordingly.
Yeah, I'm done with it, man. Like I'm done going around and trying to explain to people. It's like I was arguing with a friend of mine on the Portland riots, and he was basically like, I basically said, like, I don't care at this point what happens to these people that are outside of the federal courthouse trying to burn the building down with people inside. I just don't care. And he implied that I lacked empathy or had no empathy, and it was like, oh well, why don't you care about their motives? It's like, dude, we live in America. There are exactly zero circumstances where you actually have justification for burning down a building, for joining a violent riot and burning down a building with people inside. There's just, I don't care what the motives are, because there is no just motive.
No, hey, I'm in line with that. There's really not too much to add there.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm gonna have to head out pretty soon here. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I think we got a good conversation out of tonight. I mean, it started off with the hobbies and kind of a little bit low level, but I really do think it does branch out into those bigger overarching issues that we're seeing go on right now that we're a part of, or maybe we're not a part of, but we're observing.
Yep.
Well,
Cool.
good talk. Yeah, good talk.
Alrighty, later, guys. See y'all next week.
Peace out.
All right.